3 a.m., the dead of night, the hour when the veil between worlds is at its thinnest, the hour when the souls of departed children just might pay you a visit. What I'm about to reveal to you is something Padre Pio shared with only a select few before his passing, a special rosary, recited at precisely 3 a.m., said to open a doorway between our world and the realm where the souls of innocent children reside. If you've lost a child, if you know someone who has, if you carry the memory of a little one who is no longer here, then what you're about to hear just might change your life. Because these children, they aren't gone forever. They are simply waiting for someone to know how to reach them. Padre Pio dedicated his life to communicating with the souls in purgatory. His stigmata granted him access to dimensions that others couldn't perceive, and of all the souls he encountered, the children always touched him in a particularly profound way. The children in purgatory are different from the adults, and he would say. They don't fully comprehend what's happening to them. They're like little ones, lost in a fog, searching for their parents, searching for someone who loves them. And when they find a living soul who prays for them, they cling to it, the way a child clings to their mother's hand. This connection between departed children and their living loved ones is something the official church barely acknowledges. You are told to pray for the departed, to have masses said, to offer indulgences. But no one truly explains how to establish real contact, how to feel their presence, how to receive a sign that they are all right. Padre Pio knew this secret, and he passed it on to those who came to him, desperate. Crushed by the grief of a lost child, this secret is the Rosary of the Holy Innocents, and a modified form of the traditional rosary, specifically designed to reach the souls of the littlest ones. But this rosary, it only works under one condition. It must be recited at precisely 3 a.m., not 2:59, not 3:01. At 3 a.m. sharp, at the precise moment when the darkness is at its deepest and divine light secretly begins to pierce through. Why this hour? Padre Pio explained it this way. 3 a.m. is the exact opposite of 3 p.m., the hour of Christ's death. It's the hour when evil is at its peak, but also the hour when divine grace can strike with the greatest force. Demons are active at this hour, but so are the angels, and the souls of innocent children, protected by their purity, can cross the veil that separates the worlds. The origin of this rosary dates back to one night in December of 1953. Padre Pio couldn't sleep. His stigmata was causing him more pain than usual, and he sensed a presence in his cell. Not a threatening presence. No, a gentle, shy, almost hesitant presence. He opened the eyes of his soul, and he saw them. 3 little children, maybe 4 or 5 years old, standing at the foot of his bed. They wore white garments that glowed faintly in the darkness, and they were weeping silently. Padre Pio recognized one of them. It was the son of a woman who had come to see him a few weeks prior, a mother devastated by the death of her child in a car crash. She had begged Padre Pio to help her know if her son was in heaven. "Why are you crying?" Padre Pio asked the children. The one he recognized spoke, not with audible words, but directly into the saintly monk's mind. "My mommy is crying," he said. "She cries every night, and I can't console her. I can't tell her that I'm all right. She can't hear me." Padre Pio was deeply moved. He knew that this child's mother spent her nights weeping, unable to find peace. And here was the child himself, suffering because he couldn't reach his mother. "How can I help you?" he asked. The 3 children looked at each other. Then one of them spoke. "There is a way, on a special rosary. If my mommy recites it at this hour, I'll be able to appear to her in a dream. I'll be able to show her that I'm happy. But she doesn't know this rosary. No one knows it. That's when something extraordinary happened. A light appeared behind the children, a golden full warm light, and in that light, Padre Pio saw the Virgin Mary. She held a rosary in her hands. But this rosary was different from any he had ever seen before. The beads were not all one color. They alternated between white and pale pink. And instead of a crucifix, the rosary ended with a small medal depicting a group of children surrounding the baby Jesus. Mary smiled at Padre Pio. "This rosary," she said, "is that of the Holy Innocents. It was prayed in the early centuries of the Church, and then it was forgotten. But the time has come to make it known again. The children in purgatory need to be prayed for in this way." She then explained to Padre Pio how to recite this rosary, what prayers to use, what intentions to formulate, and above all, she revealed the mystery of 3 a.m. "This is the hour when my children can cross over," she said. "The hour when the veil is at its thinnest. If a mother or a father recites this rosary at this hour, thinking of their departed child, then the child will be able to appear to them in their sleep. Not a terrifying apparition, no, a visit of love, of comfort, of peace." Padre Pio memorized every detail of this revelation. The next day, he brought in the mother of the child he had seen and taught her the rosary of the Holy Innocents. He told her to recite it that night, at precisely 3 a.m. The woman obeyed. She woke up at 2:55, knelt before an image of the Blessed Mother, and began to recite the rosary. At 3 a.m. sharp. What happened next? She recounted to Padre Pio the following day. Tears in her eyes, but her face radiant. While she prayed, he felt a warmth wash over the room, a gentle warmth like that of a spring ray of sunshine, and a fragrance of flowers, roses and lilies mixed together, filled the air. Then she fell asleep. Not an ordinary sleep, but a luminous sleep, as if she were floating in a cloud of light. And in that sleep, she saw her son. He was not as she had seen him at the moment of his death. Broken by the auto accident, he was whole and smiling and dressed in white. He ran toward her in a garden filled with flowers, a garden more beautiful than anything she had ever seen. "Mommy," he said, embracing her, "don't cry anymore. I'm happy here. I play with other children, and I'm waiting for you. We'll be together someday, but not yet. You have things to do on earth." The woman woke up in tears, but these were no longer tears of sorrow. They were tears of joy, of relief, of peace finally found. She knew now that her son was all right. She had received the sign she had been waiting for months. This story has repeated itself dozens of times over the years. Padre Pio taught the Rosary of the Holy Innocents to many grieving parents, and almost all of them received a visit from their child in their dreams. I say almost all because there were conditions to be met. The Rosary didn't work automatically. It required certain dispositions of the heart, certain spiritual preparations, and above all, it required sincere faith. Padre Pio warned that doubt was the main obstacle to these visits. "If you recite the Rosary while wondering if it will work," he said, "you yourself create a wall between you and your child. Faith opens doors, doubt closes them." To cultivate this faith, Padre Pio recommended a 3-day preparation before reciting the Rosary of the Holy Innocents for the first time. This preparation consisted of specific prayers, fasts, and meditations. On the first day, you had to fast from at least one meal and spend an hour in silence, meditating on the life of the child who had passed, not on their death, but on their life, their smiles, their laughter, their first words, their little hands gripping your fingers. Remember everything that was beautiful, bright, and joyful. On the second day, you had to go to confession and receive Holy Communion. Padre Pio insisted on this point greatly. The state of grace is essential, he said. You cannot establish pure contact with a pure soul if your own soul is stained by sin. Purify yourself first. On the third day, you had to prepare the space where the rosary would be recited, a small altar with a white candle, a picture of the Blessed Mother and Child, and, if possible, a photo of the child who had passed. This space had to be blessed with holy water and protected by a prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel. These preparations may seem demanding, but Padre Pio considered them essential. You are not simply going to pray, Guo, he explained. You are going to open a door between worlds. It is a spiritual act of great power. It must be done with seriousness and reverence. Now, let me explain the exact structure of the Rosary of the Holy Innocents. It differs from the traditional Rosary in several ways. The Rosary begins not with the Apostles' Creed, but with a special invocation to the Holy Innocents of Bethlehem. This invocation asks the first 28 martyrs of the Church to serve as intermediaries between the world of the living and the world of the departed. Holy Innocents of Bethlehem, you who gave your lives to protect the child Jesus, open the gates of purgatory this night. Allow the souls of children to cross the veil, accompany them to those who love them, and await them. By your innocence, purify this prayer. By your sacrifice, give it the strength to pierce the darkness. After this invocation, we recite the Our Father, but with an important modification. Instead of saying, "Lead us not into temptation," we say, "Do not leave the children of purgatory in darkness." This modification centers the prayer on the souls of the little ones. Next come the decades. But instead of 10 Hail Marys, we recite 7. The number 7 is symbolic. It represents the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit and the 7 days of creation. And above all, it represents the age of reason, the age from which a child is considered capable of sinning. Why this number? Because children who die before the age of 7 are considered particularly innocent. They have not had time to develop the vices that afflict adults. Their souls are lighter, closer to heaven, and the number 7 honors this particular innocence. Between each decade of 7, we do not recite the traditional Glory Be, but a special prayer composed by Mary herself during her apparition to Padre Pio. Child Jesus, you who were protected by the innocence of Bethlehem, protect in turn the innocence of purgatory. Open to them the gates of your kingdom. Allow them to see the face of their heavenly Father, and tonight, allow them to visit those who love them on earth. The Rosary ends with a concluding prayer that explicitly asks for the grace of a dream visit. Virgin Mary, Mother of all children, I have prayed this Rosary with all my heart. I beg you, allow the soul of my child, or the child for whom I pray, to come visit me tonight. May their presence comfort me. May their message guide me. May their love warm me. I surrender to your will. If this visit is not possible tonight, may it come when you deem it good. But I beg you, do not leave me in ignorance. Give me a sign that my child is all right. Amen. This structure may seem complex at first glance, but it becomes natural with practice. Padre Pio recommended memorizing the prayers before reciting them at 3 a.m. to avoid having to read in the dark and lose the necessary concentration. Now, I must tell you about what happens after reciting the Rosary, because that's where things get really extraordinary. After finishing the prayers, Padre Pio recommended staying kneeling in silence for a few minutes, not to continue praying, but to listen. Because sometimes, he said, the children do not come in a dream. They come immediately. During these minutes of silence that follow the Rosary, these immediate visits are rare, but they exist. Some people have reported feeling a small, invisible hand rest on their shoulder. Others have heard a child's laughter echo in the room. Still others have perceived a characteristic scent, the scent of the shampoo their child used, or the scent of their freshly laundered clothes. These signs are evidence that the child has heard the prayer and is trying to communicate. They do not replace the dream visit, but they prepare for it. They open the channel that will allow the child to come later in the night. After these minutes of silence, Padre Pio recommended going back to bed with the clear intention of receiving the visit. "You must not be afraid," he said. "The children in purgatory, they don't come to frighten us. They come to console us. Their presence is always gentle, luminous, comforting." To help receive these dreamlike messages, Padre Pio suggested sleeping with an object that belonged to the child who passed: a toy, a piece of clothing, a drawing. This object creates a physical link that complements the spiritual connection established through the rosary. He also recommended keeping a notebook and a pen by the bed, because visitation dreams are often vivid upon waking, but they can fade quickly if you don't write them down immediately. As soon as you wake up, write down everything you remember, he insisted. Every detail can hold significance. There are many touching testimonials from those who have practiced the rosary for the Holy Innocents. I'm going to share a few with you. As they were recorded in the archives of San Giovanni Rotondo, the first testimonial comes from Joseph and Anna Ferraro, a couple from Rome who lost their only daughter, Lucy, at the age of 5, to leukemia in 1959. Anna was inconsolable. She spent her days weeping, unable to work, to eat, to live, in desperation. Joseph brought her to see Padre Pio. The Holy Friar received them with great tenderness. He taught them the Rosary for the Holy Innocents and told them to recite it together at 3 a.m. for 3 consecutive nights. The first night, they didn't perceive anything special, nor the second night. They were starting to doubt. But on the third night, something happened. They recited the Rosary together, hand in hand, before a photograph of Lucy. Then they went back to bed, as Padre Pio had instructed. Joseph fell asleep quickly, but Anna, she remained awake, her eyes fixed on the ceiling, and suddenly, she saw it. A small, golden light, no bigger than a tennis ball, floating above the bed. The light came closer to her, and Anna heard a voice, her daughter's voice. "Mommy," she said, "I'm here. Don't cry anymore. I see you crying every day, and it makes me sad. I'm happy where I am. There are lots of other children, and we play together. And there's a very beautiful lady who reads us stories. She says she's our mommy to all of us." Anna wept, but this time with joy. She reached out towards the light, and for a moment, she felt her daughter's small fingers close around hers. Then the light moved away, passing through the bedroom wall as if it didn't exist, and Anna finally fell asleep. A deep, restful sleep, the first in months. When they returned to see Padre Pio, the Holy Friar smiled. "Lucy is a luminous soul," he said. "She didn't need to spend much time in purgatory. She is already in heaven, with the Blessed Mother. But she will come back to see you if you recite the Rosary regularly. She hasn't forgotten you." This testimony illustrates an important point. The Rosary for the Holy Innocents doesn't always work the same way for everyone. Some receive a visitation in a dream. Others, like Anna, receive an awake visitation, a direct perception of the child's presence. Still others receive more subtle signs, meaningful coincidences, sudden intuitions, inexplicable fragrances. Padre Pio said that the form of the visitation depended on several factors: the spiritual state of the parent, the state of the child's soul, and, above all, what God deems most helpful for healing the grief. Sometimes, he said, God doesn't allow a direct visitation because the parent isn't ready yet. The shock would be too great. The visitation would come later, when the heart has healed enough to receive it. That's why you should never be discouraged if the first attempts don't produce a visible result. The Rosary is working in the invisible realm, preparing the ground for the visitation that will come in its time. The second testimonial I want to share is from Mary Teresa Bianchi, a woman from Florence who lost her son Mark, aged 7, drowned in a lake in 1962. The death was sudden, brutal, with no chance to say goodbye. Mary Teresa was haunted by this lack of closure. She hadn't been able to hug her son one last time, to tell him she loved him, to bless him before he departed. This pain gnawed at her from the inside. When she learned about the Rosary for the Holy Innocents from a friend who had met Padre Pio, she was initially skeptical. How could a simple prayer allow her to see her son again? It was impossible, irrational, contrary to everything she had been taught. But desperation drove her to try anyway. She had nothing to lose. She followed the 3 days of preparation to the letter: fasting, confession, communion, preparing the altar, and on the 4th night, at 3 a.m., she recited the Rosary for the first time. What happened next marked her for the rest of her life. She fell asleep after the Rosary, and as expected, and she had a dream of extraordinary clarity. She was on the edge of a lake, but not the lake where Mark had drowned. A much more beautiful lake, with crystal clear waters that reflected a sky of impossible blue. And Mark was there, standing on the water, not drowning. No, standing, walking on the surface of the lake as if it were solid ground. He was smiling, and his eyes shone with an inner light. "Mom," he said, approaching her, "I didn't drown. I flew away. The water freed me. I wasn't suffering, Mom. I just closed my eyes, and I found myself here, in this beautiful garden, and I've been waiting for you ever since." Mary Teresa wept in the dream, and her tears fell into the lake without creating ripples. "I miss you so much," she said. Mark shook his head. "I'm always with you, Mom. Every time you think of me, I feel it. Every time you pray for me, I receive your prayer as a gift. And one day, you'll come join me, but not now. You still have work to do down there." He approached her and hugged her. It was a real, tangible hug, as true as any hug she had ever received. She felt the warmth of his small body, the smell of his hair, the beating of his heart. Then he walked away, walking on the water towards the center of the lake. "Goodbye, Mom, but not farewell. We'll see each other again." Mary Teresa woke up crying, but something had changed within her. The knot of grief that had been constricting her chest for months began to loosen. She could breathe again. She could live again. She continued to recite the Rosary of the Holy Innocents regularly for years. Her son Michael would appear to her from time to time, not every time, but often enough to maintain the connection. And with each visit, she saw him grow, evolve, become more radiant. "The soul continues to grow in heaven," Padre Pio explained to her when she recounted these visions. "Children do not remain eternally small. They mature, they evolve, they learn, but they always retain that innocence that characterizes them. It is their eternal treasure." These accounts raise an important question. Why doesn't the Church speak more about these possibilities? Why has the Rosary of the Holy Innocents remained in the shadows for so long? Padre Pio had his theory about it. He thought that the official Church was afraid of abuses, afraid that people would start contacting the dead willy-nilly, without discernment, without spiritual protection. Afraid, too, that some charlatans would exploit this practice to extract money from grieving parents. These fears are legitimate, he acknowledged, but they do not justify depriving parents of this comfort. The Rosary of the Holy Innocents is not spiritualism. It is a Catholic prayer, framed by tradition, protected by the sacraments, in the right hands. It poses no danger. To avoid any risk of deviation, Padre Pio insisted on certain important precautions. The first was to never recite the Rosary in an emotionally unstable state. "If you are in the throes of despair, wait until you calm down a bit," he would say. "Raw emotion can cloud your perception and make you see things that are not real." The second precaution was to always invoke the protection of St. Michael the Archangel before beginning. 3 a.m. is an ambiguous hour, he explained. The veil thins for everyone, not just for the souls of innocent children. Other entities may try to manifest, posing as what they are not. Saint Michael will repel them. The third precaution was to verify the content of the messages received. A true message from a deceased child will always be positive, comforting, oriented towards love and peace. If you receive a message that troubles you, that frightens you, that pushes you to do strange things, then it is not your child speaking, it is something else. These precautions may seem paranoid, but Padre Pio considered them essential. He had seen too many cases where well-intentioned people had been deceived by malevolent forces. Spiritual prudence is never excessive. Now, I must address a delicate subject. What happens if the rosary doesn't work? If, despite all the preparations, despite all the faith, no visit comes? Padre Pio was categorical on this point. The absence of a visible visit does not mean that the rosary has failed. The rosary always acts, even if we do not perceive its effects. Every time you recite the rosary of the Holy Innocents, he would say, you send light to the children in purgatory. This light warms them, consoles them, accelerates their purification. Even if you do not receive a visit in return, the child for whom you are praying benefits from your prayer. He compared it to sending a letter. You write a letter to someone you love, and you send it. You don't always receive a response. Maybe the recipient doesn't have time to respond. Maybe their response gets lost along the way. But that doesn't mean your letter didn't arrive. It was received, read, appreciated likewise. Your prayer has been received, heard, cherished. This perspective was important to Padre Pio. He didn't want people to become obsessed with visible results. Prayer is not a business transaction, he reminded. You don't pray to get something in return. You pray out of love, and love always has an effect, even if that effect remains invisible. That said, he acknowledged that visits were an extraordinary grace that God often granted to those who prayed with sincerity. If you have not received a visit after several attempts, he would say, examine your heart. Is there an obstacle that you have not identified? An unconfessed sin? An unforgiven resentment? A secret fear that is blocking the channel of communication? These psycho-spiritual obstacles were, according to him, the main cause of apparent failures. The rosary opened the door, but if something was blocking the passage on the prayer's side, the child could not enter. Forgiveness was particularly important. If you harbor resentment towards someone, that resentment creates an invisible barrier. And that barrier doesn't just affect your human relationships, it also affects your relationships with the spiritual world. Padre Pio recounted the case of a woman who had lost her son in an accident caused by a drunk driver. She hated that driver with all her might. She wished him death, damnation, eternal suffering. She had recited the Rosary of the Holy Innocents for months without ever receiving a visit. Finally, she had come to see Padre Pio to ask him why it wasn't working. The holy monk had looked into her soul and had seen the knot of hatred that reigned there. Your son cannot reach you, he had told her, because your hatred creates a wall between you. He is knocking on the door of your heart, but you are too busy hating to hear him. The woman had been shocked. How could she forgive the one who had taken her child? It was impossible, inhuman, unjust. Padre Pio had looked at her with compassion. Forgiveness is not for the driver, he had said. Forgiveness is for you, as long as you hate him. He has power over you. He lives in your head, in your heart, in each of your thoughts. Forgive him, and you will be freed, and then your son will finally be able to reach you. It wasn't easy. The woman took months to get there, but one day, in an act of heroic will, he spoke the words of forgiveness. She didn't really feel them, not yet, but she said them anyway, and that night, for the first time, her son appeared to her in a dream. "Thank you, Mommy," he said to her. "Now I can reach you. The wall has fallen." This story illustrates a profound truth. The Rosary of the Holy Innocents is not just a prayer for the dead. It is also a prayer for the living, a prayer that compels us to examine our heart. to confront our inner darkness, to choose love rather than hate. The children in purgatory help us grow just as much as we help them to be released. It's an exchange of love, a mutual relationship that transcends death. If you've listened this far, it's because something in you resonates with this message. Perhaps you've lost a child and you're desperately seeking a sign that they're okay. Perhaps you know someone in this situation and you want to help. Today, you've uncovered a secret that Padre Pio cherished for years, a secret that can transform grief into hope, separation into communion, death into a continuation of love. What you've just heard isn't simply information, it's a spiritual tool of extraordinary power, a tool that can reconnect you with those you've lost. If this video has touched your heart, if you feel these revelations deserve to be shared, then I ask you to do something concrete. The Super Thanks button at the bottom of this video helps support the spread of these secret teachings. Each contribution helps create more content like this, to reveal other forgotten practices, to honor the memory of Padre Pio and his mission to save souls. By clicking on this golden heart, you participate in an act of mercy. You help other grieving parents discover the rosary of the Holy Innocents. You contribute to freeing the souls of children from purgatory. Now, I'm going to recap the essential elements so you can note them down. 3-day preparation. Day 1, fasting and meditation on the child's life. Day 2, confession and communion. Day 3, preparing the altar with a white candle, an image of the Blessed Mother, a photo of the child, structure of the rosary, invocation to the Holy Innocents, Our Father. Modified, 5 decades of 7 Hail Marys, Glory Be prayer. Modified, between each decade, concluding prayer, requesting a visit, after the rosary, minutes of silence and listening. Go back to bed with an object belonging to the child. Keep a notebook and pen near the bed. Protection. Invoke Saint Michael the Archangel before beginning. Verify that the messages received are positive and loving. Padre Pio used to say that 3 a.m. was the hour of angels and demons, the hour when spiritual forces are most active, but he also said it was the hour of miracles. Every parent who recites the Rosary of the Holy Innocents at this hour participates in a miracle, the miracle of love that transcends death, the miracle of communication between worlds, the miracle of divine consolation that answers human tears. The children in purgatory are waiting. They're waiting for someone to think of them, to pray for them, to reach out to them through the veil. That someone could be you. Before I leave you, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever been awakened at 3 a.m. for no apparent reason? Have you felt a presence in your room at that hour? Have you had the feeling that a child was trying to contact you? Share your experience in the comments. Your testimonies can help others understand that the visits are real, that deceased children can truly communicate with us. May the peace of the Holy Innocents be with you. May the Virgin Mary cover you with her mantle. May Padre Pio Gay intercede for you and for the children you've lost. And may this night, at 3 a.m., a little light come to visit you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.